It's one thing to discover what you're passionate about. It's another thing to figure out how to pursue your passions while also pursuing motherhood. Wendy Castellanos-Wolf and Alexandra Rozo met while pursuing a shared passion for flamenco dancing, and recently started pursuing a new passion project together as co-hosts of the Mama Cita podcast.
Having kids has made me more focused. I have a lot of things that I have to get done in a day, and some of them are not fun, and some of them are my passions. And so I have to prioritize those. And so anytime my daughter is asleep, I already know that those 45 minutes or that 1 hour of time is going to be devoted to advancing one of my passions.
Coming back to what I do and what my passions are, it just makes me so happy. And I feel like I'm a better mom now because I'm happier and she sees me following my dreams. And that's the same thing that I want for her.
This is the How She Moms podcast with Whitney Archibald. I'm a mother of 5 on a mission to help moms connect with your kids, manage your homes, and create your own unique version of motherhood. I curate ideas from different moms so you can pick and choose what works for you and your family. I listen to new mom podcasts all the time, and there are a lot of them. I usually listen to one episode or part of an episode and move on unless I really love it. When I stumbled upon the Mama Cita podcast, I listened to one episode and then another, subscribed, and kept coming back. Alex and Wendy are funny, wise, and insightful, and as a bonus, they both have fabulous laughs. They also pick really interesting and relevant topics. I could go on, but you might as well just go over and subscribe. Of course, as soon as I started listening, I knew I wanted to meet them. You'll love this conversation all about how they discovered their passions, how they pursue them as busy moms, and how they deal with mom guilt. I started by asking them how they discovered their passion for flamenco.
From probably the age of like 3 or something, or maybe before, I don't know. I've always just been like an entertainer. Like I love to dance and sing and, so that has always been my thing. I've always had this passion, for just like the entertainment industry, for being on stage. So that was definitely what I wanted to do from the beginning. I wanted to be a superstar. That kind of thing. Like most little girls, right? Like that's kind of like a thing. Then as I got older, I actually got really interested in other things. For a minute there, I was like, oh, I'm going to be an astronaut. And then like, I really love animals. So I was all into like Jane Goodall. I'm like, I'm going to go and like, research and whatever. Anyway, but my mom, supported me in the dancing and the acting and all that. So that's just kind of like what I did growing up. And then, so I did all that and I worked a lot as a child actor until like my teenage years. And then I stopped. I took a step back and I'm like, okay, hold on, like real life. and then I stopped for a long time. I got married. I had my daughter, got divorced, or, all that situation, life happened. And then just now I'm starting to get back into what my passion is, acting and dancing, the entertainment industry, all that. So
Really? So I didn't realize this had been a recent thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've continued dancing, like, that's how I met Wendy, through flamenco. Yeah. But not like 100% focused, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just kind of like a thing that I kind of fell into. And when I originally moved to LA, it was for that. It was for acting. And I started getting some work and I was doing pretty well. But then, lots of things happened, whatever, life. And so I stopped and I was just like, okay, I'm done with this. I had a moment of like, all right, I'm done. And like I said, when I got married and I had my daughter, I was convinced that that was it. I was like, okay, that life was in the past. Now I'm here. Now I'm a mom. I'm a wife. Like, this is what I'm doing now. And I did not think I was going to come back to this at all. And I'm so happy that I have.
Me too.
Because it really is what I love. And now I realize like I had let a part of me kind of just die, and I wasn't happy because it's what I do, right?
Yeah, so, and who you are.
It's part of who I am. I love it. I'm a creative person. I love, working on projects and coming up with, things. And so I'm so happy that I'm coming back to it.
Awesome. Did people along the way try to dissuade you from, because everybody's going to be a dancer and a singer when they grow up, right? And an actress.
Right. Yeah.
Did people try to talk you out of it?
No, actually, I think I had the opposite experience. My mom loved the idea. And actually, I think that that is probably one of the reasons why I decided to stop, because I did feel some pressure. I don't think she did it on purpose, but like she loved it so much, you know, and I loved it too. And I was good at what I was doing, you know, but she kind of really got into the whole, you know, this is what we're doing. And I was like, okay, wait, that's a little bit too much. So that made me like want to stop. So
Well, and
yeah,
that's a natural time in your development that you kind of separate yourself from your mother, and
yes, yeah.
that's
And we
normal.
were so like intertwined because, you know, obviously she was with me at every show and she was always there. And so I was like, okay, I need like to step back. I need to figure out what I'm doing, even though I really do truly love it. You know, I love working in front of a camera. I love being on stage, but yeah, no. So I had all the support. I was like, but it kind of backfired a little bit.
Yeah, but good for your mom. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Wendy, what's your answer to that question?
Well, I always knew I wanted to dance. It's one of the things that just came naturally to me. And in fact, when I was a child, my parents would like put me in the living room and say, "Dance, Wendy, dance." Which
Entertain
I
us.
liked. Exactly.
Entertain us.
I loved it at first and then I hated it, you know? And so then I didn't want to dance for the people in the living room, but I did still want to go to the studio. And I was really fortunate that my parents were supportive in that regard. And, you know, I was able to take dance classes. And so I grew up doing ballet and jazz and hip hop and modern and all that stuff. And for college, I actually was a dance major. I went to UCLA and my degree is called World Arts and Cultures, but really it's dance with some cultural anthropology. So it was a really cool degree to pursue. And while I was there, I was able to, you know, kind of engage in other passions. My other passion has always been reading and writing. And so I was able to take some writing classes, some bilingual writing classes, a lot of literature and film. So it was really neat to be able to pursue all of those things and then come out of college and have that be my life. I've always had the quote unquote day job, right? Because artists need to stitch their income together unless you have a really awesome gig that pays all the bills. That doesn't always happen. It comes around every once in a while, but not every day. And so I've always had a day job in education. And then my real life happens at night. You know, when I do my dance shows or if I'm working on my own personal projects, whatever that may be.
Awesome. Okay. So how did you meet in flamenco and how did you both gravitate toward that style of dance?
Really, I fell in love with it instantly because movement has come easy to me. Like I can dance, I can pick up movement, I can do choreography, but this was not just that. Like flamenco, you have to become a musician. And so,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and you have to learn another language, learning to communicate without words. And I'm not just saying like, you know, when you think of modern dance and people are expressing emotions, yes, all that is included, but more so in the fact that I have to tell and guide the band as to where I want them to go. So with my feet, with my movement, I have to say, stop the music, sing for me, play this part of the song. And so I was just intrigued. You know, this was a whole other world. It was not just the dancing, but like I said, becoming a musician, learning a new language, and then immersing myself in this like Spanish gypsy culture and lifestyle. You know, it really does become a lifestyle and you just go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And then you're just obsessed.
Okay, so I first saw flamenco when I was very young, like probably like 3 years old. I grew up in Miami, and so there were a couple tablaos back in the day, and I did see flamenco, and I became like obsessed with it. But I was so young, you know, I was a baby practically. But of course, you know, seeing these beautiful women in the dresses and whatever, I was like, I want to do that, right? So at home, I would like dress up and like pretend to be a flamenco dancer, and like it's hilarious. I have all these funny videos and pictures of me trying to dance flamenco, right? I didn't know what flamenco was, but I was trying to do what I saw, right? But it's very hard to find flamenco classes, like real flamenco, because what you get a lot of is like the commercialized version, right? Which is just the pretty dresses and kind of girls dancing around, but there's so much more to it. Like Wendy said, it's a whole language, it's a lifestyle, it's so much, right? Like if you really want to learn, you have to, there's a lot. So I didn't get that. I thought I was learning flamenco, but I really wasn't. And then of course I got into ballet and modern and jazz and all like the usual things that you take when you go to a dance studio, because flamenco is not that easily accessible, or at least it wasn't at that time. Like I said, I've always been, you know, an artist and in the like entertainment, all that. I've never had a day job. Like Wendy said, I've just kind of like, I don't know, I wing it somehow. I do gigs, I do, you know, my jobs and whatever. And so there was this big show happening that Wendy was dancing in with her friends from college. It was like a whole group of them. And I don't remember exactly how I ended up meeting the director and choreographer of the show, and they needed another dancer. And I was like, I'm a dancer, but I had never really performed flamenco, like in that way. You know, these girls knew what they were talking about. And I was just like, oh, I'll do it.
She faked it till she made it.
I faked it. I was like, I'm a dancer. I'm just going to pretend that I know this style, which I didn't really know what I was doing. But all the girls were so welcoming, and we just kind of bonded immediately. And I became, you know, friends with them. Now we're like family, you know, but I learned so much from being there in the rehearsals and from dancing with Wendy and all of our other friends. And then it just took off from there. Then it became an obsession. Like Wendy said, it becomes an obsession and you just want to learn more and more because there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
And I traveled to Spain. I took classes there. And now I'm like all about it. And it's awesome.
That's like so cool. Huh? Oh, I'm really excited to delve a little deeper into this world. So how has motherhood kind of woven itself through this path that each of you have taken, and how has it influenced your passion and your pursuit of that passion?
Oh my, okay. Well, when I had my daughter, I thought I was done with, you know, the dancing and the acting and all that, with all my passions. You know, I thought like, okay, I'm just a mom. And that's fine, you know what I mean? But for me, I definitely felt like something was missing. You know, I needed a creative outlet. I needed to be doing something. But I feel very blessed that I got to spend the first, 2 years of her life just focusing on her. Mm-hmm. And that was beautiful. And I'm like so attached to my baby girl, you know, she's my everything. Yeah. So I had like the first 2 years just focused on her. And then I decided to move back to LA. And when I did that, it was just me and her, because that's when I left my husband. And basically, I was just like, it's just me and her now. What am I going to do? What do I know how to do? All I know are, you know, my passions. It's art, it's dancing and acting. I do a lot of voiceover work. So I'm like, okay, well, I have to just get on it, you know, and work as much as I can. So basically, she became my biggest motivation, because I'm like, that's it. It's me and her. I need to provide for this baby. I need to give her a good life. So she has inspired me and motivated me so much to jump back into my passions and, you know, and just work hard. And it's difficult. It's really hard to balance both. At least for me, I have a hard time. You know, I definitely feel the mom guilt a lot, because sometimes I'm working so much that I feel like she needs me and I can't really be there for her at the moment. And I'm like, you know, I'm sorry, like you just have to understand. But I also think that she's learning a lot from seeing me work and from seeing what I do. So yeah, I mean, basically she's my biggest motivator, you know?
Yeah. I love that, because so often you hear women feel like they lose themselves in motherhood. And then there's this other narrative, there's this other story where we can find ourselves in motherhood, and we can, because we have to be so careful about our priorities, it helps us clarify what those are. And that's what I see in your story. And it makes me yearn for that, for all moms to be able to not lose themselves, but really find out.
I definitely feel like I experienced both. Like I said in the beginning, I was losing myself, even though I appreciate and I'm grateful that I got to spend all day, every day with her, and just focus on her. I love that. But I was losing myself, and coming back to what I do and what my passions are, it just makes me so happy. And I feel like I'm a better mom now because I'm happier, and she sees me following my dreams. And that's the same thing that I want for her. I want her to follow her dreams.
And to see that you can do both. I always shy away from the word balance because it makes it sound like it's supposed to be equal. But somebody just told me that a scale, a balance goes back and forth, and that's the beauty of it. And it doesn't mean they have to be equal. It's a constant equilibration.
That's right. I had never thought about it like that, but now that you did all this, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I feel a little better now.
Yeah, totally.
Because I'm guilty of like wanting everything to be like 50-50. Like I want to be like a really good mom, and I want to be really good at my, work. And sometimes I'm really hard on myself because I'm like I'm not doing enough, but it's back and forth, and you have to go with the flow, right?
Totally. What about you, Wendy?
Well, on the podcast, we talk a lot about how our children have inspired us, and like the whole meaning of Mama Cita for us, because we, appropriated this word, is really just being self-empowered, empowering other women, pursuing our passions, doing our life and still being mothers, but not letting the whole identity of motherhood or how society perceives motherhood to be the one and only thing that we focus on, right? Just because we are mothers. So yeah, I think for me, having kids has made me more focused. And so it's kind of funny, but I do make lists and I plan out every nap. I know Alex always laughs at me, but like, this is the only way I can function in my life, right? I have a lot of things that I have to get done in a day, and some of them are not fun and some of them are my passions. And so I have to prioritize those. And so what I do is anytime my daughter is asleep, I already know that those 45 minutes or that 1 hour of time is going to be devoted to advancing one of my passions, whether it's writing project, or I have to choreograph a new dance for my dance class, or I'm doing something for the podcast. That's what I'm going to do. And so I make sure I plan ahead of time so that time is not wasted. That's what I mean by saying that my kids have made me more efficient and more organized, because I have to be. Also, I have a sense of like urgency, you know what I mean? Because I spend so much time on my children. So I don't want to feel like all this time has passed and I've left myself behind and I haven't advanced at all. So I do have this sense of urgency kind of kicking me in the butt every day. Like, okay, I've spent all this time on them, all this energy on them, but I still have to do this for me. Even if I'm tired at night, I'm like, okay, I got to get this done. This is for me. So yes, my kids have made me more organized, more efficient, and they've given me a sense of urgency. And I don't know if all that is great, but that's how I do it at my house. And that's the only way I can make it work.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because it's such an evolution. I can speak as the kind of the next stage of parenthood. So I've just barely emerged from that early baby stage, and all of a sudden, when they all go to school, if you haven't nurtured that side of yourself, you can feel pretty lost. And I've seen some of my other friends be like, now what am I supposed to do? I've been focused 100% on these needy children, they need so much at that age. And if you haven't nurtured anything along the way, there's this identity crisis when they're suddenly busier and they don't need you as much.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about this on the podcast. I feel like when I was growing up, my mom, like I said, she was so supportive of me and what I wanted to do that I definitely feel that she lost herself. And so I don't want to do that. I want to show my daughter that I am still an individual. I'm still a woman. I still have passions and dreams that I am actively pursuing. And, and like you said, you can do both. You can be a mother and still work on your own thing. And I definitely want Sophia to see that, because I see how my mom left everything just to take care of me. And I feel like that definitely, it makes me sad. It makes me a little bit sad. And it also affected our relationship.
Yeah. Have you seen her be able to reclaim that a little bit as she's moved on?
I don't think so. No, not really. I mean, my mom is older now. She had me when she was 42. So, now she's in her 70s, and like,
She loves that you just said that, by the way.
She doesn't listen to podcasts. But yeah, I think it's so important to be an example of a woman who can do, both, be a mother and still follow her dreams. So I really want Sophia to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think this is important for relationships. A lot of the times we spend a lot of time just focusing on the children, and we put our relationship in the back burner, not just our passions. And it's like all about the kids. We forget ourselves. We forget the person we made the children with. and then when they go to school or when they're gone, you're just left with this stranger and an identity crisis. And that, I think, is one of my biggest fears. And so even though it is difficult to put yourself first sometimes as a mother and a woman, I really try to do that. And we try to do that. We talk about this all the time. It's
something we strongly believe to take care of ourselves first and keep our identity and our individuality, outside of being a mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it, like you've both said, it can really strengthen the relationship, because a relationship is a two-way street. If they're having a relationship with you, they got to know who you are too.
Yes,
exactly. I remember we talked about this on the podcast. I said, we were just talking, I was like, I wonder what my mom would have done if she didn't have me. Because I don't know, like, what are her passions? Like, what did she dream of? What did she want to be? I don't know, because I never really saw her trying, or pursuing anything that, she worked, obviously, she worked to provide, she was a working mom, but like, what does she love? Like, who is she? What were her dreams? I'm not really sure. She was just my mom.
Yeah. And that's kind of heartbreaking.
Right? Yeah,
it really is. Okay. So Alex, you mentioned mom guilt.
Yeah.
I would love to hear both of your relationships with that.
Okay. Well, I am definitely one of those that is tormented by the mom guilt. And it comes from the fact that I work from home. I guess now we all work from home, right? Nowadays. I forget. We're all stuck at home, right? And she's at home. She's not in school. So when I'm doing things like right now, that I'm here, in this interview, she's out there on the iPad, just by herself. And that makes me feel really bad. Being an artist and doing the work that I do, I have to spend a lot of time by myself, whether it's like recording or whatever in here, doing auditions. And so she spends a lot of time by herself, either on the iPad or watching TV, but that's my only option. I really have no other option at the moment. She's not in school. I'm waiting for her to start kindergarten. It's going to be a game changer for me.
Yeah.
But I feel so bad. And sometimes I can't even focus on my work because I'm like, I'm a terrible mother. Like, what is my daughter doing out there? She's 5. She's like in the living room all by herself, watching who knows what. I keep an eye on what she's watching. She's not watching anything inappropriate, but still, like, I feel like I should be there with her. But then again, the time that I do spend with her, we have so much fun. And then she turns around and like, does like, such awesome things that I'm like, okay, I must be doing something right, because she's such a, smart, creative girl. I'm like, okay, we're not so bad. We're not doing so bad. Like whatever she's, the time that she spends on the iPad, which is way more than I'm sure other people do, because what else am I going to do? I'm the only adult here and I have to work, so that's my babysitter. The TV, the iPad, those are my babysitters. And she spends way more time on that than I would like, but it is what it is. This is what works for us at the moment, until she goes to school or whatever. But I do get a lot of awesome feedback from my friends and the people around us. They're like, you're such a good mom. Like, she's such a smart, beautiful girl. Like you're doing a good job. And that makes me feel better.
Yeah. She's safe. She's loved. She's fed.
Definitely loved. Definitely loved. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think we see all these other moms and we think we have to do everything that they can do well. This amalgam that we've put together of all this, this mom that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I think we underestimate, for example, you've also been a stay-at-home mom. That's what I do this podcast, but since I've done a few things on the side, but mostly I've been a stay-at-home mom. And there are times when I'm busy doing all sorts of other things, and other people have this image that I'm like with my kids all the time. But there's a lot of that, oh, later, honey, I'm busy. There's a lot of that with all moms. And I think we can idealize the opposite, or what we view as the opposite, and forget that we all have the same hours in a day, and we're all doing our best, and it really is all that matters. Past a certain threshold of just taking care of our kids' basic needs. Beyond that, doing our best means we're a good mom.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think it's that idea that we have, like, oh, like all these other moms are doing things better than I am, and that's not really true. Like, we all do what we can. Everyone's life is different, and you just,
I bet you have way more dance parties than most moms.
Oh, me and her. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So it's like moments like that I'm like, okay, like I am here for my daughter, and she is loving life, and we're good, and that helps with the mom guilt. So
yeah. Yeah. What about you, Wendy?
I don't really have a lot of mom guilt, but only because I'm kind of cheating at this whole mom business. I have the multi-generational home. And so I have there's 4 adults and 2 kids. We outnumber the kids.
Yeah, and that makes a difference.
It does make a huge difference. I've always been able to go to work and leave my children with my mom or my husband, who has a very flexible schedule. My dad, I can't really leave them just with my dad because he's a very old school, Latino dad, and he won't change a diaper, like, do things like that. But he'll team up with my mom and they'll do a good job together. He's very entertaining. Like, he'll play with them really, really well. And so I haven't had that type of mom guilt until the pandemic, when I didn't leave the house at all. And then now that I'm finally starting to go to work and I have to leave my 15-month-old, I have a little bit of guilt, only because I haven't left all year, and she sees me and she cries, and she's so attached to me that, she will give my husband a hard time, or she will give her grandma a hard time and cry for me. But then it stops. It's not like it lasts forever, and they let me know when it's done. And so I know that it's fine, like she will survive.
Well, and that brings up a good point. I wonder how much of what we call mom guilt is really just mom sadness, and that's okay. Just missing them. It's okay to just be sad that we're not with them. It doesn't mean we're bad because we're not with them. And it's kind of it's a good quality. It's good that we miss them.
Yeah. And I was going to say earlier, we have so many like unrealistic expectations placed on moms about how perfect everything should be, and how they should be, and how the kids should be. And no, there is no should. Our kids are who they are. We are who we are. As like you said, as long as all the basic needs are met and they are loved, they're going to be fine. I mean, I grew up in front of the television, probably watching way too much television by myself when my parents went to work. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Being alone fosters a ton of creativity. And there are studies about this. If you're bored, you're more likely to use your creativity, your imagination. You're more likely to find something to do because you don't want to be bored. Obviously if it's totally unsupervised all the time, it's not great because you can get into trouble. But for the most part, a little bit of, boredom while you're doing work at home, Alex, is just going to improve her creativity and self-reliance. And ultimately that's what you need.
And she's very creative. This, my daughter, she's just fine. Yeah. She's fine. It's all in me, it's all in my head. The mom guilt is just me.
Yeah.
I know when I think about it, I'm like, okay, no, everything's fine. Like really, my life is fine. I have nothing to complain about. She's great. She's very smart. She's very advanced for her age. Like we're good, but it's just in my mind. It's just a feeling that, sometimes just comes around and you can't help it. Yeah. It's a lot of what you said. It's like the expectations, or like the should, like, oh, for example, I just thought of, there was a time when I was teaching classes late at night. And so obviously she comes with me, right? Because she's with me all the time. And so I would be out with her pretty late at night. And, we would come home and she was like knocked down in the car seat, and I would, have to like get her in and like, tuck her into bed and whatever, she's like, and I would think, I should not be doing this. Like, I should not have my little, like, what was she, like 3-year-old, 4-year-old out so late. Like, she should be, having dinner and, bath and bed, like the normal routine, what I think is normal that most moms do. But that's just not my life. I'm out until really late and she's with me, but you know what? She's fine. I just have to deal with it. Like, this is just what it is. I don't have a steady routine. We don't have a steady schedule. Like, it's just.
In fact, she probably loves a lot of it. She's going to look back on that childhood and like, how many people got to spend their life in a dance studio? That is pretty awesome.
Yeah. So it's not, it's not what I think my, the ideal mom does, but it's what I do and it works for us and it's fine.
Yeah. It's not conventional, but it doesn't make it wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing. I think a lot of moms feel like, oh, if I don't follow these strict guidelines of what motherhood is supposed to look like, then it's wrong. And it's not.
I think it's clear that Wendy and Alex are doing a lot of things right. I love this idea that unconventional is not wrong. We all get to customize our lives and motherhood to our talents, passions, family situations, and the unique kids we're raising. I love the perspective that both Wendy and Alex bring to their own motherhood experiences. If you're anything like me, the next thing you'll want to do is to see these fabulous women dance. You can find clips of Wendy dancing flamenco on her YouTube channel, Wendy Castellanos-Wolf, and you can find Alex's dance and acting clips at alexandrarozo.com, including some adorable footage from her childhood acting career. They're both so good at what they do. Thank you for listening to the How She Moms podcast. If you like it, tell a friend. The bigger the community, the more ideas. There are lots of ways you can add your ideas to the How She Moms community. We have a Facebook group where we share ideas about upcoming topics and help each other solve problems we're facing in motherhood. You can also follow How She Moms on Instagram for quick tips and ideas. And you can go to howshemoms.com where you'll find transcripts of episodes and lots of other great resources. Special thanks to my mom, Susan Singley, for recording my theme music. She played this song all the time when I was growing up, and to me, it's the soundtrack of motherhood.